Hey guys, tonight we're headed somewhere you're probably not gonna find on your GPS. It's one of those stories that creeps up on you slow, the kind that gets under your skin, not with jump scares, but with that whisper in the back of your head, asking, did that really just happen? Picture this, I'm behind the wheel of my rig running solo. It's just past 6:45 p.m. somewhere in the Arizona desert, where the horizon stretches out flat and lonely in every direction. The sun's starting to dip that molten orange kind of light that makes every shadow seem 10 times longer. My AC is rattling like it's been punched by a dust devil, and the radio's playing some old classic rock that keeps fuzzing out with static. I'd left the last town behind over an hour ago, a blink and you miss it kind of place with a single gas pump and a bar that probably served more regrets than beers. The haul wasn't anything exciting refrigerated meats headed northbound, but I had a good chunk of road ahead of me. Was planning to put in at least another 4 hours before shutting down at a rest stop near Flagstaff. So far, pretty normal, just me, the highway, and the hum of diesel underfoot. But the weird started creeping in before I even realized it. First thing that threw me, dead silence. I mean, yeah, you expect quiet out in the desert, but this was something else. No wind, no chirping bugs, not even the usual buzz of power lines when you pass under one. Just this heavy, unnatural hush, like the whole world hit mute. If you've ever driven through the desert at night, you know that silence can feel like a third passenger riding shotgun watching you. I remember glancing at my dashboard thinking, maybe the music cut out. But no, the song kept playing. Only it sounded off, slower, like the tempo had dropped without the pitch changing, almost like the whole track was tired. Here's where I throw in your reality check joke. Unless you've handled 600 miles straight with no co-pilot and a cup of gas station coffee that tastes like burnt regret, you probably wouldn't survive this trip with your sanity intact. So before you get too comfortable, take a second to like the show and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we're building here. And hey, while you're at it, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what you're driving today. Whether you're rolling in a long nose, peat hauling doubles in a Volvo, or cruising cross-country in your RV, this story's for you. Now let's turn up the volume, set our sights on the open road, and roll out together. The sun finally slipped below the horizon, and that's when it started to feel wrong. Like the road didn't want me on it anymore. I passed mile marker 239, clear as day, white numbers glowing on green, but seconds later, I passed it again. Same sign, same scuffed-up pole, same little patch of cracked asphalt off the shoulder. I chalked it up to fatigue. Maybe I was zoning out. Happens sometimes. But then the fog came. Now here's a real fact for you: desert fog isn't common. In places like southern Arizona, you need just the right combo of temperature drop, humidity, and calm winds. And even then, it usually hugs low valleys, not stretches of open highway like this one. Yet here, it was rolling, in thick like a ghost parade. Dense white, swirling like steam off dry ice. I killed my high beams and dropped to about 35, hugging the center line like my life depended on it. The weirdest thing? No moisture. None. My windshield stayed bone dry. The fog didn't cling or bead, it just existed floating past my rig like it had somewhere to be. And the smell? Not earthy or damp like morning mist. It smelled like metal, like hot copper wire, or the inside of a toaster that's just burned out. Some drivers swear by pulling over in fog like that, wait it out, sip some coffee, play it safe. Others hate stopping mid-haul unless there's a solid shoulder and good lighting. I'm usually in the second camp, but this fog, it felt personal, like it knew I was trying to power through it. Now here's a quirky tidbit. There's a stretch of I-17 where locals swear the fog isn't weather. It's residual energy from an old mining disaster in the early 1900s. Whole shift of men buried alive. Some say their spirits never left and that the road was built straight through where their camp used to sit. I don't usually buy into ghost stories, but man, that night made me rethink things. Up ahead, a flicker in the distance. At first, I thought it was taillights, another trucker making his way through. But it wasn't red, it was white, like a flashlight being waved side to side mid-air. Then it stopped. Then it stood still. I eased off the throttle, my heart doing double time. You ever get that deep-rooted instinct that tells you not to keep driving? Yeah, that was me, foot hovering over the brake, staring dead ahead. And then I saw it, a figure smack dab in the center of my lane. No movement, no reflective gear, just a human shape in the middle of nowhere surrounded by fog. I leaned on the air horn. Nothing. Hit the brakes. Hard tires squealing, and right before the grill reached him, he vanished. Not ducked, not ran. Just gone. No thud, no stumble, no impact. And when I finally stopped, the truck completely climbed out with my flashlight in hand. The road was empty, perfectly undisturbed. That was the first time in my life I thought I might not be alone on this stretch. Now I've seen mirages before. Heat waves, shimmering air, even the occasional weird shadow play from my own headlights, bouncing off signs. That's just part of long-haul life. But what happened after I saw that figure? That wasn't light tricks. That wasn't dehydration or highway hypnosis. That was something else entirely. I got back in the cab, double-checked the locks, and cranked the engine to idle. Every hair on my arm was standing up. And I'll admit it, I actually said out loud, "Nope. We are not doing this tonight." I eased back onto the highway, slow and steady, trying not to think too hard about what just happened. You ever try not to think about something while driving straight into the dark for another 3 hours? Yeah, good luck with that. It's like trying not to picture a pink elephant when someone says it. Your brain rebels. Somewhere around mile 241, I figured I needed to stop and collect myself. I wasn't far from a pull-off I remembered from a few years back, an old roadside diner with a gravel parking lot and a neon sign that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since Reagan was in office. The sign said, "Joe's Stop, Eat and Rest," flickering red and blue like a dying police cruiser. I pulled in, shut the rig down, and climbed out. The gravel under my boots felt weirdly soft, like walking on packing peanuts. No other vehicles in sight, not even a beat-up Civic or rusted-out pickup. But the diner lights were on, and the smell of coffee, strong, burnt old school, hit me the moment I stepped through the door. Now here's your road fact for the night diners. Like this used to be everywhere across the states, especially along truck routes. Pre-chain era, pre-fast food takeover. Every one of them had a local charm or a local ghost story, depending on who you asked. Inside this one, the layout was classic checkerboard floor, red vinyl booths, a long chrome counter with swivel stools. The jukebox in the corner was playing Blue Moon, but there wasn't a soul near it. And then I noticed something that hit me sideways. They were all looking at me. 5 patrons, all sitting at different tables, none of them eating, just staring, forks in hand, like they were frozen mid-bite, but there was no food on their plates. A waitress behind the counter gave me a nod like I was right on time. "You're later than usual," she said, pouring a fresh cup of coffee without me asking. I laughed nervously. "Don't think I've ever been here before." She smiled without blinking. "Sure you have. You just don't remember yet. Now I know what you're thinking. Get the hell out of there, right?" Believe me, every part of me wanted to. But something about the way she spoke, like she wasn't threatening me, just stating some cosmic fact, made me stay. Curiosity's a hell of a drug for drivers, sometimes worse than caffeine. I took a seat at the counter. The coffee tasted like battery acid, and jet fuel had a baby, which meant it was probably brewed right. She poured me another cup before I even finished the first. Said her name was Darla. I asked her where exactly we were. She just tilted her head toward the window. "There," she said. "And not there." I looked outside, and my heart just about stopped. My rig was gone. No joke. I'd parked right outside, directly under the neon sign. Now just empty gravel, untouched. No tire tracks, no sound of an engine idling. I stood up so fast the stool spun and clattered into the next one. "You okay?" she asked, casual as ever. "Where's my truck?" I snapped. "You'll see it again," she said, wiping down the counter with a rag that didn't look wet. "When you're ready." The other patrons, still staring. One of them, an old guy with sunken eyes and a denim vest full of faded patches, finally spoke up. "Don't leave through the front door," he said, voice raspy. like someone who hadn't spoken in years. It resets the whole thing. Now here's your underknown tidbit. For this leg of the ride, some drivers out west believe in liminal zones, physical spaces where reality thins out. Rest stops that don't show up on return trips, diners that vanish after you eat there. Kind of like the Bermuda Triangle, but for the highway. This place, it felt liminal as hell. I walked to the bathroom just to get a second alone. The mirror over the sink was cracked, but only in the reflection. In person, the glass looked fine. I waved my hand in front of it. The crack didn't move, didn't match. When I stepped back out, the diner was completely empty. No Darla, no old man, no jukebox music, just silence and a faint buzzing from the neon. But the coffee cup at my stool, still full, still steaming, still waiting for me. I didn't sit. I backed toward the door, the one I was warned not to use, but I didn't care anymore. Something about being inside that place too long felt like drowning in molasses. I pushed the door open, expecting darkness. What I got was the exact same moment I'd walked in. Same gravel, same night air, same flickering sign, and my truck parked right where I left it. You ever have that moment where you second-guess reality, like you blink and the world resets, and you're the only one who notices? That's what it felt like walking back to my rig. Same tire position, same faint heat radiating off the hood. Even the dust swirl around the wheels hadn't changed, like the last 30 minutes didn't happen or happened outside of time. I climbed into the cab, checked my watch. 9:16 p.m. But here's the kicker. The dashboard clock still read 7:08, the exact time I pulled off the road. No matter how many times I tapped, the dash restarted the ignition or even pulled the fuse, it wouldn't update. That clock was frozen, like it had taken a snapshot of my last normal moment. Started her up anyway. Engine rumbled to life just fine. But something was off. Like the hum was deeper, the throttle response slightly sluggish. You know how your rig feels. You know every squeak, every groan, the way your clutch bites. This wasn't my girl. It looked like her, but it didn't feel like her. Anyway, I rolled back onto the highway, fog still thick, like I'd never left it. I kept my speed, low ears on high alert. CB was silent. No chatter. Not even static. Until about 10 minutes later. That's when the rear-view mirror started playing tricks on me. Now here's your mainstream fact truck mirrors are precision-tuned for safety. Wide-angle convex glass, perfect for checking blind spots. And yes, you're trained to use them more than your own damn eyeballs. But what I saw in mine wasn't safety. It was something else. At first, just lights. Two faint white orbs in the distance far enough back that they didn't feel threatening. I figured another driver finally showed up, maybe another rig, brave, or dumb enough to drive this stretch during fog conditions. But every time I looked again, the lights hadn't changed position. No closing distance, no wobble, no pass attempt. Just there, sitting, watching. I flashed my hazards. No response. Tapped the brakes lightly. Still no change. Cranked the CB, finally breaking the silence breaker. 1-9 got a rig, running ghost behind me. Anyone reading this? A long crackle. Then, a voice. Not a friendly one. Scratchy, male, monotone. Don't let it pass you. That's all it said. Then dead air. Now I don't know about you, but that's not the kind of advice that calms a man down. I looked back. The lights had moved, closer, but still no vehicle visible. And here's your quirky tidbit. There's an old superstition among long haulers that if you see phantom lights behind you, and they never pass, you're not being followed. You're being mirrored. That what's back there isn't a car or a driver, but you from a different reality, chasing the wrong turn you didn't know you made. Sound crazy? Yeah, I thought so too. Until those lights did something I'll never forget. They blinked, not like high beams, not like Morse code. They blinked in sequence, left to right. Like a pair of human eyes. I nearly swerved off the shoulder. I grabbed the wheel tight and muttered every curse I knew, plus a few I probably invented on the spot. And that's when I passed another sign. Exit 17, Cotton Creek Yard. Problem is, I'd already passed exit 17, 20 miles back, and I'd never turned off the highway. The radio flickered on again. Not CB this time, the regular FM. Except instead of music or news, I heard my own voice. Dead serious, my own voice. Turn off at the next exit. Don't look back. I shut the radio off so fast, I nearly snapped the knob. Now here's the reflective point that's going to stick with you. Some drivers live by the rule that you trust your truck more than yourself. It's your partner out there. It senses things before you do. And when something starts screwing with your ride, your gears slip, your brakes stick, your mirrors lie. That's the road's way of telling you to get out. And still, like a stubborn fool, I kept driving. Ahead of me, the fog started to thin. Not lift, just part. Like someone slicing a curtain with a knife. Through that narrow slit, I saw the outline of another building. A gas station, old, isolated, lit by a single buzzing canopy bulb above the pumps. I didn't want to stop, but I had less than a quarter tank, and something told me I was going to need full reserves for whatever came next. So I pulled in slow, like I was rolling into a trap. No cars, no sound. The air smelled like burnt rubber and diesel. Not fresh old stale, like it had been trapped here for years. I stepped out. The gravel was too soft again. The station looked like it hadn't been open since the Carter administration. Cracked windows, paint peeling. The door was slightly ajar, but the pump display lit up like Christmas. I walked over, slipped in my card. It processed without a hitch. Fuel started flowing. No click, no resistance, no meter running, just an endless stream, like the tank had no bottom. And then a voice behind me said, "Don't fill it too much. You'll weigh yourself down." I turned. Old guy. Mid-60s maybe, wearing a stained jumpsuit with a patch that said LOU. He had no flashlight, no car, no sound of arrival, just standing there in the shadows like he'd been waiting for me. I said, "You work here." He chuckled, something like that. And when he reached out to pat the pump, his hand went right through it. You ever feel your stomach drop, even though you're standing still? That's what happened when Lou's hand passed clean through the gas pump, like it wasn't even there. No flicker, no sci-fi glow, no fancy illusion. Just a quiet, straight-up impossibility right in front of my face. I didn't say anything at first. Didn't run, didn't scream. I just stared at him, heart doing a drum solo in my chest. Lou looked at me with the calm of a man who's seen this play out more times than he can count. "You filled her too much?" he said again, stepping back into the fog, as casual as someone knocking off for a smoke break. I looked down at the nozzle still flowing. I yanked it out fast and dropped it back into the holster. The second I let go, the pump display blinked off. No receipt, no charge. Just dead. I turned to ask Lou what the hell was going on. Gone. No footprints, no sound of movement. Just silence and fog, thick as ever. I hopped back into the cab, slammed the door, and locked it out of pure instinct. I didn't even check the gauge until I'd pulled back onto the road. But when I did full tank, to the brim. Now here's your mainstream fact. Most rigs have an automatic shutoff on pumps to avoid overflow and spillage. Mine should have kicked off automatically, but it didn't. There was no click, no clunk, just an endless stream like Lou had warned me. And here's a tidbit for the road geeks out there. Cotton Creek, the road I supposedly exited onto, doesn't exist anymore. It was decommissioned in 1983 after a rockslide wiped it off the map. Locals say it's cursed. Of course they do. As I rolled on, I noticed something else. The highway had changed. It was subtle at first. The lane stripes were fainter, the pavement more cracked than I remembered. No reflectors, no signage, and the trees along the edge, thicker, more gnarled, like they'd grown into the road over time. And the weirdest part, every now and then, I'd see flashes of taillights just for a second, off to the side, like someone driving parallel through the woods just out of reach. Never on the road, always nearby. That's when I started noticing the plates. Every car, every single one I passed, had the same license plate. 1968 LV. Didn't matter what the vehicle was. Buick, Camry, some jacked up Dodge Ram. Every plate read the same. Thought I was going crazy, so I pulled close to a white van up ahead. Got close enough to read the state tag. 1968 LV. Nevada plate. I overtook a Toyota next. Same plate. Then a semi-flatbed with no load rolling suspiciously slow. 1968 LV. I laid on the horn hoping maybe someone would react. Nothing. No hand wave, no annoyed brake tap, just rolling forward, steady and lifeless. Now here's where things tip fully off the map. I pulled into the left lane to overtake another sedan, and as I passed it, I looked into the driver's window. And I saw myself. I mean, not just someone like me. Not some guy who looked similar. No, it was me. Same jacket, same cap, same little scratch across the bridge of the nose I got from a tight wrench slip a few years ago. And he wasn't driving. He was staring at me, hands off the wheel, eyes locked onto mine. Didn't blink, didn't smile. Just watched me pass with this cold, hollow expression, like he was waiting to see what I'd do next. I slammed back into the right lane hard, hammering like a piston out of alignment. Now here's a reflective thought that's haunted me ever since. Maybe there are roads we're not meant to take. Not because they're dangerous or closed, but because they lead to parts of ourselves we aren't supposed to meet. Some drivers swear there are shadow routes that run parallel to our world, occasionally intersecting when the conditions are just right. Fog, solitude, weak signal, nightfall, the perfect storm. I started to wonder, had I crossed onto one? And then, just ahead, I saw another sign. Exit 17, Cotton Creek Arched, again. That made 3 times now. I hadn't made a turn. No roundabouts, no loops, just forward motion. But there it was again. Same bullet-riddled green sign, same flickering orange construction lamp beside it. The road was trying to tell me something. I pulled off. If I was going to figure this out, I couldn't just keep circling. I needed to go into it. The ramp curved hard right and narrowed fast, flanked by pine trees so dense they swallowed my high beams. The road surface turned to gravel, then dirt. My tires crunched through leaves and old twigs like stepping on bones. Then I saw the shack. Wooden, 1 story, sagging porch, light in the window. I rolled to a stop about 50 feet out. Didn't kill the engine, not this time. I stepped out and left the door open, letting the cab light spill out like a beacon behind me. And that's when I heard it. A radio playing faintly, same song as the jukebox in the diner, Blue Moon. Only now it was slowed down. Distorted, like a broken tape, and I swear to you, the voice singing it sounded exactly like mine. That slowed-down version of Blue Moon playing from inside the shack felt like it was peeling open the night. Each warped note crawled under my skin, setting off nerves I didn't know I had. Now, normally, I wouldn't walk into some random backwoods building at night, especially one broadcasting my own voice over a 1950s love song. But logic left the rig miles ago. At this point, curiosity was dragging me forward, like a chain hooked to my belt. The porch creaked under my boots, not a subtle, this place is old kind of creak, but a long, groaning protest, like the house knew I didn't belong. The wooden door had no handle, just a push plate covered in scratches, like someone had clawed at it from the outside or maybe the inside. I pushed. Inside the shack was colder than the air outside, which shouldn't have been possible. There was no insulation, no power lines, no signs of life except for an old AM radio on a crooked table and a single bare bulb hanging overhead, swinging like it had just been bumped. The radio crackled, popped, and cut out, just as I stepped in. No more music. Just the hum of the bulb and the sound of my own breath echoing off cracked wooden walls. Here's your mainstream road detail for the moment, places like this. You find them sometimes in rural parts of Nevada or northern Arizona, old mining shacks, ranger outposts, or long abandoned road crew stations. But even those have some signs of wear and tear, like tools paper or old maps. This place, nothing. Not even dust. There was one thing on the table, though. A photograph. I picked it up. Black and white, faded at the corners. Showed a rig, nearly identical to mine, parked on a dirt road with a blurry figure leaning against it. The face was hard to make out, but the jacket mine. The hat mine. Even the odd scuff mark near the elbow was exactly the same. I flipped it over. On the back scribbled in pencil, "You've already been here." No signature, no date. You ever get that feeling like you're dreaming while wide awake? Not the good kind. The sinking kind. Where your mind's trying to catch up to something your bones already understand? That was me holding that photo like it was about to burn a hole in my hand. Then the radio crackled back to life. Time's running out. Not my voice this time. Someone else. Deeper, rougher. Pick a road or stay lost. The bulb above me blinked twice and then popped. Glass rained down like hail. I was already outside by the time it hit the floor. Now here's a quirky tidbit. There's a theory among old-school truckers that sometimes in the loneliest parts of the country, you're not really on a highway. You're on a choice, a test. You're being watched not for how fast you drive or how well you follow the lines, but for where you choose to go when the road splits and no sign tells you what's right. I got back in my truck and slammed the door. The second I fired her up, the GPS came to life on its own. No boot-up screen, no logo. Just a plain black screen with a single message, "Exit 17 one last time," and an arrow pointing back the way I came. I don't even remember shifting into reverse. All I know is I was moving back onto that dirt track, then the gravel, then the highway again. As I rejoined the road, I passed a mile marker. 239. That damn number again. But this time, the fog was gone. Clear sky. No more figure in the lane. No more phantom headlights. Just an eerie silence, like the world was holding its breath. But the silence didn't last. CB radio crackled to life. Same deep voice. "You picked a road. Let's hope it's the right one." And then, dead air. I looked in the mirror. No taillights, no shadowy cars, just me and miles of open stretch. And right before I could exhale, a green road sign appeared ahead. Exit 17, Cotton Creek Ard, for the 4th time. Now this is the debate point that stuck with me ever since. Was I supposed to keep driving past it? Or had I been running from something I was meant to face all along? Some drivers say the only way out of a loop is through. Others, they swear the second you stop trying to solve the road stops testing you. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this time was different. There were fresh tire marks on the shoulder. Mine. From before. And parked just past the exit sign was a second truck, identical to mine. Same color, same model. Even the sticker on the back of the sleeper cab, the faded one that reads "Live Free" or "Drive Hard," was right there. Only difference. The other truck was empty. Driver's side door wide open, keys swinging from the ignition. You know that feeling when your body says go, but your brain whispers, wait. That was me. One boot out of the cab, staring at what was either a hallucination, a trap, or some kind of parallel life echo. I couldn't begin to explain. The second truck was identical. Too identical. Down to the rusted front bumper dent I'd gotten after backing into a light pole in a petro lot 3 states back. No one could have faked that unless they'd followed my entire route and maybe even my whole life. I approached slowly, my engine still idling behind me like it didn't want to be left alone. The night air was crisp now, fog gone, stars out. But the weird part, there was no sound, not even crickets, not a breeze. Just this overwhelming stillness, like the entire desert had been hit with a mute button. The truck sat there like a metal tomb. I crept around to the driver's side, keeping my hand near the multi-tool on my belt, just in case. The door was open, swinging lightly on the hinge, like it had been left that way just moments before. Keys dangled from the ignition, swaying slightly. I reached in and shut them off. The second they stopped jingling, I noticed something that almost made me step back. There were fingerprints on the steering wheel, greasy, fresh ones. Same pattern I leave when I drive with my left hand while holding coffee in the right, and on the passenger seat, a logbook. I picked it up and flipped to the latest entry. My handwriting. Same pen, same shorthand, same mileage notes I'd made just 2 nights earlier. Only the last line didn't come from me. It read, "Stop looking. Start driving." Here's your mainstream fact. Most drivers keep some kind of log, whether it's official digital or just a beat-up notebook in the glove box. Helps track hours, loads rest breaks. What it doesn't do is write back. I tossed it back onto the seat and backed away. I'd had enough. This wasn't some freak weather event or sleep-deprived delusion. This was a message, a fork in the road, spiritual, supernatural, or otherwise. And then I saw something move. In the sleeper, not big, not human-sized, just a shift, a shadow maybe. But it darted fast, a twitch of something behind the privacy curtain. I drew closer again, against my better judgment, one hand on the doorframe leaning in. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Not mine, not from outside. From inside the sleeper compartment. Slow, shaky, then a whisper just barely audible. You're too late. I yanked back like the metal had burned me hard, punching my ribs like it wanted out. No more creeping, no more checking. I sprinted back to my rig like the devil himself was in the rear view. And when I climbed in and slammed the door, I caught one last look at the other truck. Curtain drawn back, no one inside, nothing at all. But the logbook, gone. Now here's your quirky road lore tidbit. Some say doppelganger trucks show up to warn you that if you ever see yourself on the road, it's the universe's way of telling you you've strayed too far. Others say it's a literal fork. In fate, pick the wrong version of yourself, and you don't get to come back the same. As I pulled back onto the highway, hands shaking, throat dry, I started wondering if the road knew me better than I knew myself. The CB crackled again. Not static this time. Voice. But it wasn't the rough one from before. This one was soft, younger, familiar. It said, "Remember who you were before the road." I didn't answer. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? 10-4 goes to myself, I copy that. Instead, I kept driving. And that's when I noticed the signs had changed. No more mile markers, no more exits, just a single white sign planted off the right shoulder. The end is not a place. Not official, not DOT regulation. Looked like someone hand-painted it on scrapwood and jammed it into the desert floor. And then, like a slap back to reality, the weather shifted. Wind picked up, fast, violent. Dust swirling like a tornado was licking the edge of the highway. Temperature dropped 10 degrees in less than a minute. The windshield fogged from the outside. My headlights dimmed slightly, like something was draining the battery. Another CB message broke through louder this time. Urgent. You're crossing over. Make your choice, now. And up ahead I saw it. 2 tunnels. Side by side. No markings, no lights. Just 2 yawning mouths carved into a rock face that shouldn't have existed in this part of Arizona. I slowed down, my hands sweaty on the wheel. One tunnel glowed faintly like distant daylight was waiting inside. The other, pitch black. Not dark black, like it wasn't a tunnel at all, but a void. Now here's your reflective question, driver to driver. When the road splits, and no map can tell you which way's right, do you follow the light or chase the unknown? I coasted to a stop about 20 yards from the tunnels. Engine idling, low dashboard lights, flickering like they weren't sure whether to stay on. I flicked on my hazards not for safety, but out of habit. Like some part of me still believed this was a real road and not whatever dimension or dreamscape I drifted into. 2 tunnels, no signs, no arrows, no tire marks, just choice. The one on the left gave off this faint glow like sunrise creeping through a canyon, the kind of soft light that promises rest, or maybe return. The one on the right, nothing. Pure black. Not a single photon bouncing back. Now, here's your road reality tunnels. Usually have signage, weight limits, height clearance, exit markers. These had none of that. Structurally, they didn't even look right. The rock face around them wasn't blasted or cut with precision like DOT crews do. It looked natural, like the mountain had opened its mouth and decided to swallow passing trucks whole. I killed the engine, stepped out. The desert air hit me cold and dry, pulling at the sweat on my neck. My boots crunched the gravel as I walked forward a few feet, trying to feel something, wind, sound, anything. Nothing. No echoes. No scent. Not even the vibration of distant rigs on the asphalt. just dead quiet. And then the CB in my cab sparked to life without power. Soft static, then a voice. Mine. It whispered, "One leads forward, one loops back. Decide." I turned and stared at my own truck lights, still flashing keys, still in the ignition, but no sound. Like it was holding its breath. Like it knew. Here's your quirky detail for this stretch. There's a legend among Utah canyon runners about the two mouths. Story goes that in the 70s, a driver hauling military cargo took a wrong turn on a closed desert road and ended up at two tunnels. Only one came out the other side. The other never did. No body, no rig. Just the echo of brake squeals that never stopped. I walked closer, kicked a stone into the left tunnel, the glowing one. It skipped once, twice, then silence. No bounce, no clatter, like the tunnel absorbed sound. Then I did the same to the right, the black void. Nothing. Not even the sound of the stone landing. Just complete erasure. I stood between them, hands on hips dust, curling around my boots. I thought about all the signs, all the loops, the voice that called me by name, the doppelganger truck. I remembered Lou, the diner, that awful coffee. And then it hit me, I'd already made a choice. This road, this whole damn journey, had already started the moment I didn't pull over and nap back at mile 239. Every decision since was another thread pulled tighter. So what did I do? I walked back to the truck, climbed in, and I aimed straight at the black tunnel. I know what you're thinking. But something in my gut said this was the truth road, the one not meant to comfort me, not meant to lie with warm light or offer an easy way out. The kind of road that if you survived it, you came out changed. I took a deep breath, hit the accelerator, and crossed the threshold. Everything vanished. No sound, no sensation, like falling asleep and waking up mid-dream with no memory of how you got there. I was surrounded by darkness, not just visual total blackout of the senses. Couldn't hear the engine, couldn't feel the seat, couldn't see the gauges. Only thing that proved I was still moving was the faint vibration in my legs. Seconds passed, or maybe hours, and then a crack of light, not up ahead, behind me. I looked in the mirror and saw the exit shrinking, that same desert road pulling away like I'd been ejected backward. And in that moment, I saw something else. Another rig, right behind me. Identical. But this time the driver was older. Gray streaks in the beard. Eyes sunken, tired. Still me, but aged. He raised a hand slowly, not a wave, a salute. Respect, or maybe warning. And then he vanished as the darkness behind me swallowed the exit whole. Now here's your reflection for the ride. Some drivers say, the road doesn't just carry you to places, it mirrors your state of mind. That if you're lost inside, the road will find a way to show you. And if you've gone too far, it gives you a chance to drive back. If you're lucky, then, just like that, light exploded ahead. I shot out the other side of the tunnel like a cork from a bottle tires, grabbing asphalt again. But it wasn't the same highway. New road, smooth. Blacktop clean and unmarred. Mile marker read 000 in crisp white font. Brand new, untouched, and on the horizon, a city I didn't recognize. No skyline, just warm lights. Rows of them, street lamps that seemed to go on forever. I slowed down, letting the rig coast, the CB silent again. But something told me I wasn't done. I'd picked my road, but where it led, still a mystery. There's a certain feeling that hits you when you're driving toward something unfamiliar. Not fear exactly, not even excitement, more like standing on the edge of a long, silent confession. That's what this new road felt like. Not an ending, not a beginning, just exposure. Like the pavement itself knew more about me than I wanted it to. I kept rolling slow and steady down that perfectly laid blacktop. Not a single crack, no bugs hitting the windshield, no oil spots, just this pristine stretch of highway, cutting into the dark like a scalpel. The city ahead shimmered like a mirage, not towering, no high-rises, just lines of streetlights that pulsed soft yellow, warm and rhythmic. It looked staged, like a memory someone built from scratch, familiar and foreign all at once. I reached for the CB again, flicked it on, half expecting more riddles. Nothing. Just the low static hiss, the background music of the road. And then I saw it. A sign. Fresh paint, no bullet holes or weathering. Clean and sharp, like it had just been bolted in place this morning. Welcome back, driver. Underneath that, where you've been, was just the warm-up. Now here's your mainstream road. Fact signs like that don't exist. Dot doesn't do poetic. You'll get mile markers, exits, detours, maybe the odd speed. Enforced by aircraft warning. But welcome back. That's not regulation. That's personal. My palms started to sweat. Not from heat. From anticipation. The road forked again, this time, into three. Left lane, a red arrow flashing downward. Right lane, a blue arrow pointing upward. Middle lane, no arrow. Just a green light blinking, slow, deliberate. Now here's your quirky tidbit. Some old highway safety instructors used to talk about the color test. Red meant danger, blue meant law, green meant go with your gut. Don't know if it was real psychology or just truck stop lore, but in that moment, I took it to heart. I went straight. The second I crossed that green light threshold, my radio popped. Not CB, not FM, cassette. Which doesn't make sense, because I haven't had a tape deck in this rig since 2004. But there it was, a warped cassette logo on my stereo's digital screen, spinning, playing. Then came the voice, my voice again, but different, tired, hollow, echoing like it was recorded inside a cave. Do you even remember why you started driving? That hit me harder than I'd like to admit, because the truth is, I didn't. I mean, sure, there were reasons. Bills, freedom. A busted heart I didn't want to talk about back in Kansas. But somewhere along the way, the reasons blurred into routine, and the routine blurred into noise. The voice continued. You were looking for something you couldn't name. Thought if you drove far enough, fast enough, long enough, it'd show up. The cassette hissed, then stopped. I kept driving, not fast, just forward. The lights of the city came closer now. I could see details, but nothing made sense. There were people walking the sidewalks, only they weren't moving right. Too slow, like they were on delay. Their limbs lagging a half second behind their steps. Every car parked at perfect angles. Same color? White. All of them. Even the bikes leaned against lampposts were spotless, matching untouched. Then I saw my own rig. Again. Parked off the main road. Not wrecked, not idling. Just sitting. And next to it, a sign, rest area for the broken. That's when I noticed the smell. Not diesel. Not rubber. Hospitals, sterile. Bleach and bandages. And my hands shaking. I don't mean nerves. I mean shaking like my body didn't belong to me. I pulled over, engine rumbling, like it knew this was not just another stop. Climbed down. Gravel under my boots again. But this time, it sounded wet. There was a building, plain brick, no windows, double doors with no handles. But I didn't need handles. They opened the moment I reached them. Inside, another diner. But this one, empty. No music, no Darla, no old man, just one table in the center, and a chair. On the table, another logbook, this one charred at the edges, binding cracked. I sat down. Opened it. Only one line written inside. You've come farther than most. Now, tell the road who you are. The lights dimmed. A radio behind the counter clicked on. Soft static. Then, that same warped tape voice whispered one final thing. Say it. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Because for the first time since mile marker 239, I realized I wasn't sure who I was anymore. And the road? It was waiting for my answer. The silence in that diner wasn't just quiet, it was alive, like the air itself was pressing in, waiting, holding its breath. You ever feel like the walls are leaning closer, just a hair at a time? That's what this place felt like. Claustrophobic, but wide open. A paradox in neon and chrome. I stared at that logbook. Tell the road who you are. What the hell did that even mean? Was I supposed to confess something? Declare my name like some kind of trucker ritual roll call. I reached for the pen, and that's when I noticed my hand, still shaking. But not from fear, from weight. Like the act of answering was going to cost me something. Like putting it in writing would lock in whatever reality this road had crafted around me. I started writing. Not my name. That felt wrong. Instead, I wrote I am the one who kept driving when I should have stopped. And the moment I did, the lights snapped back on. Every booth lit up, and in each one, someone sat facing forward. No movement, no sound. And all of them me. Different ages, different moods. One wore the jacket I'd lost at a way station in Oklahoma. One had a black eye I hadn't had since a bar fight in Montana. One looked clean-cut, like I'd never hit the road at all, still the version of me who took the desk job offer straight out of high school. All of them stared at me, expressionless. And then the tape voice returned. But this time, it wasn't distorted. It was clear. It said every version of you is still on the road. Now here's your reflective road. Truth, we like to think we're on one path, a clean route from A to B, but life. It's more like a web of off-ramps, misfires, U-turns. We become a dozen versions of ourselves just by deciding what we say yes or no to. This diner. It wasn't a building, it was a junction. I stepped away from the table. The logbook closed itself with a quiet snap. The versions of me, one by one, they faded. Not dramatically. No smoke, no vanishing act. They just blinked out. Like they'd decided I was the one driving now, and that meant they could rest. I stepped back outside. My rig was still there, the only thing in this strange city that felt honest. Not clean, not new, just mine. But there was someone leaning against the hood now. Long coat, brimmed hat, cigarette glowing faint in the dark. I approached slowly. "Nice work," he said without turning. "Most folks don't make it past the tunnels, loop too many times, and the road gives up on you." "Who are you?" I asked. He grinned just enough for the ember to light his teeth. "I'm just the dispatcher, brother. I send the calls. I don't decide who makes it through." He nodded at the rig. "You're clear to roll?" I opened the door and climbed in. "Didn't start the engine just yet. You mean I'm done?" I asked, half to him, half to myself. He shook his head. "Done, hell no. You just finally started." Then he was gone. I didn't see him leave. Just gone. No footsteps. No sound. Nothing. I cranked the ignition. The dashboard lit up perfectly. Every system clean. Radio silent, except one message flashed across the GPS screen, destination unknown. Route true north. Now here's your quirky trucking tidbit. True north isn't a highway term. It's a navigation concept. The direction that leads you to the geographic North Pole, not magnetic. Not shifting, constant. The road I was on didn't show up on GPS. No coordinates, no lane markers, just smooth pavement ahead. I put her in gear and eased forward. The city behind me started to fade, like mist burning off in the morning sun. Only it wasn't morning. It was timeless. Sky above looked like twilight trapped in amber, sun trying to rise, moon refusing to set. I adjusted my mirrors out of habit. In one of them, I saw my face. Not scared, not confused, just ready. And that's when I knew this wasn't a ghost story anymore. This was a redemption story. For the miles, I ran from the truth. For the detours, I pretended were plans. For the silences, I filled with noise, so I didn't have to ask why I was still driving. Now here's your debate point of the night, and you better believe it'll rattle in your head long after this episode ends, when the road asks who you are. Do you answer with who you've been, or who you're still becoming? I pushed the pedal. The rig responded with a purr, and the horizon, it welcomed me. They say every road tells a story. Some are short, like a day trip to nowhere, and some stretch long across years of asphalt and bad habits. But what they don't say is this: some roads talk back. As I rolled deeper into that twilight-lit stretch marked true north, something settled in my chest. Not peace, not fear, more like weight, like I was finally carrying the full load of every decision, every missed turn, every silent night I'd spent trying to outrun the echoes in my head. The scenery started changing, not all at once, slowly. The kind of change you don't catch until you realize the mountains look more like memories than geology. The trees, familiar, too familiar, like sketches from childhood or landscapes you passed once and never thought you'd see again. Then I passed a billboard, "Welcome to Ellsworth," and my heart stopped cold, because Ellsworth's not a real place, not in this world anyway. It was the town I used to make up as a kid when I couldn't sleep, a fictional pit stop in my journal, where all my made-up characters went when they were tired of being brave. I'd even drawn maps of it once just for fun, and now it stood before me, flesh and brick, and lit up like a late-night diner special. I slowed down, drove through Main Street. Storefronts I'd sketched in math class were now real buildings. Ricky's Garage with the busted neon R, Boone's Cafe with the slanted window, even the gas station with the dinosaur logo I invented on a whim. It was like my subconscious had hit the road ahead of me and built the whole damn town out of dreams I'd forgotten. Here's your mainstream road detail towns, rarely spring up in isolation anymore. New places grow around intersections, commerce hubs, logistics centers. But this place, no freeway, no side roads, just me, and not a single soul in sight. I parked the rig outside the diner, engine off. Lights stayed on a beat longer than they should have, then blinked out like an old man nodding off. I stepped inside. Same smell, same layout as the imaginary version I created as a bored 12-year-old. But now it had sound, a jukebox playing softly in the corner. "Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying," perfectly placed, almost cruelly so. And sitting in a booth, legs crossed, was a man in a leather jacket and boots covered in road dust. His face. Mine. Again. But this one smiled. "Finally caught up to me," he said, waving me over. "I didn't sit. Is this mine?" I asked, motioning around. He shrugged. "You tell me. You built it. You left it. We all came back eventually." We... He nodded toward the windows. I looked out, and in every building behind every glass pane, versions of me. Some laughing, some hunched over workbenches, some sitting alone in shadows. Dozens, hundreds, all living out different what-ifs. It hit me like a punch to the ribs. This wasn't just a town. It was a repository, a holding place for every version of myself I ever imagined and abandoned. Every life I never chased, every other road. The man in the booth leaned forward. His eyes were kind, but sharp. "You've got a choice, you know. You can stay here, pick a version you like, live it out in peace. Hell, even be the mayor if that's your thing." I crossed my arms. "And if I don't?" He leaned back, smile, fading. "Then you take the North Road out of town. No lights, no signs. Just you, the rig, and whatever's left of the truth you haven't faced yet. Now here's your quirky tidbit. Some old CB veterans used to talk about a place called Mirror Mile, a stretch of highway rumored to appear only at certain hours in certain states of mind. It shows you the life you could have had, but only if you're willing to trade in the one you've got." I looked back at the man, at myself. He raised a coffee mug in salute. "No shame in stopping," he said. "Just means you made peace with the drive." I turned toward the door. I haven't made peace with anything I said over my shoulder, and I meant it. I walked back out into the warm Ellsworth night, fired up the truck, checked the dash, fuel full, engine temp normal. Only one thing had changed. My GPS now showed a blinking arrow labeled Mile 1, Final Run. No route, no arrival time, just the promise of movement. And so I shifted into first, pulled away from Ellsworth, didn't look back. Because if I did, if I saw that town one more time, I might have stopped, might have picked a life that wasn't mine. And that partner ain't driving, that's stalling. You ever roll through the dark, knowing you're not headed toward anything real, at least not in the way road maps define it? That's what this next stretch felt like. It wasn't about a destination anymore. It was about persistence. About staying in motion when everything inside you is screaming to stop, pull over, and unpack the weight you've been hauling. I was back on the highway now, Ellsworth shrinking behind me, like a dream you forget the second your eyes open. The only clue it ever existed. A faint warmth still clinging to the cab, like sunlight through a dusty window. But the road ahead was colder, sharper, narrower, no lines, no lights. Just raw blacktop that looked like it was poured fresh an hour ago. I glanced down at the GPS. Still no route. Just the blinking phrase, Mile 1. Final run. Each mile that ticked by the label, updated. Mile 2. Mile 3. With every number the rig felt heavier. Not in the suspension or the throttle, I mean spiritually. Like each passing mile layered on a memory, a regret, a truth I'd been avoiding. The CB crackled again, sudden and sharp. This time, the voice wasn't mine. It wasn't Lou's. Wasn't some distorted tape. It was someone I hadn't heard in years. My dad. Clear as day. Still trying to outrun your old man, huh? I almost swerved. My fingers gripped the wheel so tight I could hear the leather strain. Now, here's your mainstream road truth. You drive long enough, you start hearing voices. Not ghosts necessarily. Just echoes. People who taught you how to shift right. How to brake on black ice. How to leave things unsaid. And my old man. He was the first driver I ever respected. Hard, honest, and never sentimental, unless he was talking about trucks. I didn't respond, didn't touch the mic. But the voice continued. You remember that last haul we did together, Utah to Tennessee? You were, what, 22? I nodded to no one. I did remember. It was the last time I saw him alive. Funny thing about that trip, he said. You talked the whole damn time. Said you were going to drive till the wheels fell off. That you'd never look back. The cab went silent. Then, so what are you doing now, son? That question hit like a freight train. Because the truth is, I had looked back. So many times. In rest stops. Motel mirrors. Night drives. With nothing but static for company. I looked back in old photos, old logbooks, old conversations I replayed in my head until they blurred. The question wasn't whether I was running. It was whether I'd ever stopped. The GPS ticked again. Mile 9. Final run. And then something appeared on the shoulder. A man. Standing still, thumb out. Wearing the same denim vest I buried with my father. I didn't stop. I couldn't. Because deep down, I knew if I let that version of him back in the cab, I'd never leave this road. Now here's your quirky tidbit for the road savvy. There's a superstition among mountain drivers that if you see a lost loved one trying to hitch a ride, it means you're close to crossing over. And if you do stop, you might not get to choose which one of you leaves that stretch of highway. I kept driving. Didn't even blink. Didn't breathe till the mirror showed nothing but empty road again. CB clicked one last time. Proud of you, he said. Now keep going. And just like that, silence. But not empty silence. Resolved silence. Like a page turning after the story's already been told. The road began to rise. Not sharply, just enough to notice. The horizon shifted too. No more twilight. No fake light from imaginary towns. Just black above and black ahead with stars, clearer than I've ever seen them. And for the first time in what felt like hours, days, years, I felt lighter. Like maybe I wasn't being punished anymore. Maybe I was just being tested, and I wasn't done yet. The GPS read, Mile 11, final run. That's when I noticed the road wasn't paved anymore. Dirt now, then gravel, then nothing but earth and starlight. And still the rig moved forward. Like it wanted to. Or maybe like it had to. The CB was dark. The mirrors were black. And the only thing that mattered now was what lay at the top of that slow, impossible climb. The higher I climbed, the less the truck sounded like a machine. The usual low growl of the engine, gone. Replaced by this steady hum, not mechanical, but almost musical. Like the whole rig was harmonizing with something out in the night. The road beneath me had stopped pretending to be a road. The gravel was long gone. Just hard-packed dirt, now worn smooth by something older than tires. Something ancient. The stars above. They weren't twinkling anymore. They were watching. Not in a paranoid sense, just a fact. They felt alive, like each one was a checkpoint in a cosmic map I wasn't supposed to understand. The dashboard clock blinked 12:00. Not noon, not midnight. just 12-0, frozen. And the GPS, no more mile markers. Just a word, threshold. Now here's your mainstream road insight. A threshold in driving terms usually refers to threshold braking, that delicate balance between max stopping power and traction loss. But in the spiritual sense, it's the border between what was and what comes next. The line between memory and meaning. I crested a rise, not a mountain, not a hill, more like a spine of the earth itself. And then the world just opened. Stretching below me was a valley of lights. Not city lights, not man-made. These lights pulsed in slow waves like breath. Amber, blue, white, gold, moving in rhythm scattered across the valley like stars had fallen and decided to rest for a while. And directly in the center, a circle of rigs. Dozens, hundreds maybe, all parked nose out in a wide ring, lights flashing in perfect unison. It looked like a trucker's Stonehenge. I started the descent. Slow. Tires crunching over dry dust air electric, like a storm that hadn't decided if it was coming or going. As I got closer, the rigs became clearer. Some were models I hadn't seen in years. Old Internationals, beat-up Peterbilts, long-nose Kenworths from the 70s. A few COEs with rusted grills, each one positioned like it was part of something bigger. Some had lights on, others were dark. And the strangest part, every single rig had someone sitting in the driver's seat, still, silent, watching me. I pulled up to the circle's edge and killed the engine. The second I did, all the other rigs blinked their headlights once, in unison, like they were acknowledging my arrival. Here's your quirky tip on certain remote CB channels. There's chatter about the last stop lot, a ghost yard where trucks go when their drivers have passed, but their purpose hasn't. A kind of purgatory for rigs and road warriors who weren't quite done yet. I climbed out. The moment my boots touched the dirt, the air changed. Warmer, heavier. It smelled like burnt oil dust and something faintly floral like lilacs blooming out of dry rot. And then I heard it. Engines. Not starting, idling. Not loud, not revving. Just existing. I walked into the circle. Each cab I passed, I peeked in. And inside, drivers, sleeping. Some had smiles, some had tears dried on their cheeks. Some looked like they were still gripping the wheel, like the road was underneath them. They weren't alive. Not in the traditional sense. But they weren't gone either. They were waiting. I reached the center, and there, on a weather-worn crate, sat a logbook. Big, leather-bound, cracks in the spine, pages yellowed and marked by fingerprints I didn't recognize. It was open to a blank page. A pen lay across the center cap, off ink glistening. I picked it up. Felt warm, familiar, and above the blank space, a question. What have you learned? I stood there staring at the page pen, trembling in my hand. My first instinct was to write something poetic, something big, something worthy of this impossible journey. But instead, I wrote the simplest truth I had. I kept going. And the second the words hit the page, the circle of rigs lit up. Every headlight, every cab light, every tail light, bright, pulsing, alive. It wasn't blinding. It wasn't overwhelming. It was accepting. The hum returned not from my rig, from all of them. A deep, resonant sound like a choir of diesel and memory singing the song of every mile, every sleepless night, every goodbye spoken over a CB channel before the static swallowed the words whole. And then silence. The lights faded. The logbook closed itself. And all the rigs powered down, as if saying, "You're ready." I walked back to my truck. The cab light flicked on automatically. Inside, the seat was warm like someone had just gotten out. And on the passenger side, sitting where I always throw my lunchbox, a folded piece of paper. I opened it. One sentence. True north is whatever road you choose to finish. I unfolded that paper slowly, fingers trembling like I was holding something sacred or radioactive. True north is whatever road you choose to finish. No signature, no hint of who wrote it. Just that one line sitting there like a loaded question with no wrong answer. But no easy ones either. I sat in the cab a moment, door open, desert air, whispering through like the land itself was waiting on me. waiting for what I'd do next. You ever been paralyzed by freedom? It's a strange thing, really. We spend our whole lives chasing an open road. No schedule, no boss yelling in your ear. But when you finally have it, when there's no GPS route, no dispatcher, no bill of lading telling you where to land next, it can feel like staring down a bottomless canyon. I cranked the engine, first try, started smoother than she had in weeks. Not a stutter, not a cough. Like she knew we'd passed some test together and was proud of me for once. The lights from the rig circle behind me, gone. No glow, no sound. Just the valley again, dry, quiet, forgotten. But not empty. I backed up carefully, eased around the circle, and rolled out on the only path forward. It wasn't marked. No pavement, no mile markers. Just two faint tire grooves cutting through the earth like someone had been down this way before. I followed them. Sky above had shifted. Not night, not day. Just this in-between. Blue fading to purple. Gold smeared across the horizon like a lazy painter hadn't finished their stroke. Now here's your mainstream fact. For this leg of the trip, there are stretches of the American Southwest where the terrain is so flat and the light so strange, time seems to warp. Pilots have reported instruments spinning. Truckers have logged fewer miles than they drove. They call it lost time country. And it felt exactly like that. I checked the dash clock again. Still 12 under, still frozen. I'd stopped trying to fix it hours ago. Then, up ahead, something shimmered. Not heat waves. Something more intentional. A shape. A structure. As I got closer, I realized what it was. A way station. One of the old ones. 1970s build chipped concrete faded green sign with half the bulbs dead. And that same awful buzzing overhead light we all know too well, the one that flickers like it's daring you to ignore it. But there was no line, no trucks, just the way bay empty and a sign blinking open. I pulled in slow. Window down. No one in the booth, no paperwork, no scanner, no clipboard, just a scale screen on the sidewall. I stopped the truck, watched it flicker to life, and the number it showed, 0000. That's right, 0. Not the axle weight, not gross, not tear, nothing. Like the truck and me didn't exist. I stepped out hard in my throat, walked to the screen, tapped the side. It blinked again. Then a message scrolled across. You are no longer carrying it. I didn't need to ask what it meant. We all carry things out here. Regrets, guilt, bad decisions, the weight of silence we never broke, and the truths we never told. Some folks carry whole lifetimes in their sleeper cabs. But for the first time in mine, I felt light. Not in a careless way, in a clean way. Like the truck and I had finally synced up. Like the road had finished whatever lesson it needed to beat into me. I stepped back in the cab, rolled out of the station. No alarms, no red lights. Just the soft hum of rubber on dirt and the sound of my breath evening out. A few miles later, I saw another sign. Plain wood nailed into a single fence post. Real road resumes ahead. And sure enough, the blacktop returned. Fresh. Painted, brand new stripes. I pulled onto it and laughed for the first time in hours. Not because it was funny, because it felt earned. You know that feeling when you've driven all night and the sky finally starts to lighten behind you. That's what this was. I checked the GPS. Blank screen. Then slowly, one word appeared. Continue. The moment my tires touched that smooth, fresh blacktop, it felt like the entire truck exhaled with me. No more dirt, no more ghost towns, no more tests hidden behind mirages. Just road, real solid, painted honest road. And man, I didn't know how much I'd missed it. I let her roll for a bit without touching the throttle, just feeling the rig glide under me, like she knew we were back in the world again. The hum of the tires was pure music. No more strange harmonics or offbeat vibrations, just that steady song every driver learns to love like a heartbeat. Then I noticed something that stopped me cold. The odometer. It hadn't changed. Still read the exact same mileage from when I'd first pulled off near mile marker 239. Like every mile I'd driven since through fog diners, Ghost Rigs tunnels Ellsworth the Circle hadn't existed in this reality. And yet, I knew they had. Every one of those miles lived in my bones now. Now here's a solid road fact for this final stretch. Most modern trucks have digital odometers synced to onboard diagnostics. You can't tamper with them without setting off warnings. Mine. No warning, no fault codes, just still. It was like the truck was saying, "You're not measured by those miles." I reached for the CB, which had been quiet for what felt like days now. Flipped the switch. Expected silence. But there it was. A voice. No static, no drama. Just a calm woman's voice saying, "Welcome back, 7-9. You're clear to roll." I didn't recognize the voice. But the call sign, 7-9, was what my old man used to call me when I'd ride shotgun with him as a kid. Back when I was just a dreamer in a ball cap, still trying to figure out how a 13-speed worked and pretending every road sign was a secret message. I keyed up the mic, copy that dispatch, rolling clean, no response, didn't need one. Sometimes the road just nods and lets you pass. A little further ahead I crested a ridge, and there it was, the real world. Not glowing, not surreal, just normal. Headlights in the distance, a few taillights fading up ahead. Civilization. Gas stations with flickering open signs. A Cracker Barrel. A Waffle House. A billboard with some terrible pun about insurance. All the things that let you know you're not dreaming anymore. But something inside me had changed. I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel hunted. I wasn't even chasing something anymore. I was just driving, because it's who I am. Here's your quirky thought for this stretch. There are drivers out there who believe the highway is alive. Not in a mystical way, in a responsive way. That it bends around the weight you carry, the choices you make, the silence between your songs. That if you listen closely, every vibration in your wheel tells you what kind of man you've become. And this stretch. It was the first one that felt like the road was saying, "You're all right now." Up ahead, a sign appeared, green and white, crisp and real. I-17 North, Flagstaff, 44 miles. Back in the loop, back on the grid. And yet I knew I'd never drive the same again. I cracked open the window. Cool desert air poured in, carrying the scent of mesquite and highway dust. It didn't smell haunted anymore. It smelled like home. Then the CB flickered one last time. Soft, gentle. A voice I'd never heard before, but somehow knew. It said, "Some stories stay on the road. Yours just started telling itself." I smiled. Not because I understood it, but because I felt it. I flipped on the radio. Static at first. Then it caught signal. Old song came through, a real one this time. Tom Petty, "Running Down a Dream." I laughed out loud and let it play. Didn't need directions anymore. Didn't need closure. Just the hum of the tires, the open road ahead, and the quiet understanding that whatever was behind me, I'd carried it long enough. And whatever lay ahead, I was ready. The highway stretched out before me now, like it always had, familiar yet unpromising in the best way. No signs of magic, no glowing tunnels. Just taillights up ahead and the occasional reflection of my own face in the side mirror. I was back in the world, or at least something that felt close enough. And for the first time in longer than I could measure, I felt like I was driving because I wanted to, not because I was running, chasing, avoiding, or surviving. The stars had faded, sky turned pale blue, just enough to tease the first edge of sunrise. That early hour when the world hasn't decided if it's awake yet. Truck stops began to dot the shoulder. Names I recognized, big names, old names, places I'd passed by 100 times and barely noticed. But now they felt anchored, like they held gravity again. Reality had reattached. I pulled into a rest area outside Camp Verde. It was a simple setup. A handful of spots, a vending machine, a restroom that looked like it was last renovated when disco was still alive. But I didn't care. I parked, killed the engine, and just sat there for a minute, hands resting on the wheel like I was still rolling. You ever finish a long haul and just not know what to do with your hands? That was me. The quiet was heavy, but not oppressive. Not anymore. It felt earned. I stepped out, stretched, and looked up. Sun finally peeking over the rocks to the east, setting the desert in gold. And I swear to you, no fog, no ghosts, no echoes. Just light. Clean, simple light. Now here's your final quirky road truth for this haul. There's a belief among some lifers in the seat that every driver eventually makes one run that defines them. Not because it was profitable, or long, or full of drama, but because it clarified something, showed them what they'd been hauling all along. And for me, that run started when I didn't pull over back at mile 239, when I ignored the fog, when I followed the strange, when I chose the black tunnel over the light. It wasn't about testing my courage. It was about testing my readiness, to let go of the weight, to stop circling, to choose forward. I walked toward the edge of the lot, coffee and hand dust crunching under my boots. The sun hit my rig just right, made her look proud. She'd been with me through all of it. The loops, the diner, Lou, the logbook, Ellsworth, the voice of my father, the rigs in the circle, the way station with a 0 reading. None of it made traditional sense, but somehow it all did. I stood there for a few minutes longer, didn't rush, didn't need to. There was still road ahead, and this time I didn't need a destination. Just the hum of the tires, the rhythm of the miles, and the quiet whisper of a road that had finally let me through. Because now I knew true north isn't a direction, it's a decision, and I'd made mine. Well, partner, if you made it this far, you've just ridden through one hell of a stretch with me. A story that started on a quiet highway near mile marker 239 and ended in a place no GPS could ever take you. If it left a mark on you, like it did on me, well, maybe that's the whole point. Next episode. Let's just say we're not done with strange roads, strange encounters, and the drivers who live through them. You won't want to miss what's coming. I'll just tease you with 3 words: the man in orange. So before you shut that engine down or pull off at your next stop, do me a favor. Drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from and what you're driving today. Like the show and hit that subscribe button, but only if you're feeling what we're building here. Real stories, real roads, real heart, and if you've got your own tale from the road, something twisted, something unbelievable, something that still keeps you up at night, share it. I'm always listening. Until then, keep your mirrors clean, keep your CB open, and keep your wheels turning. Because out here the stories never stop, and neither do we. See you on the next ride, partner. Stay sharp, stay safe, and stay true to your road.